Come with me if you want to list.
Folks, welcome to another edition of Real Estate Experts. As always, I'm your host, Glenn Twiddle, bringing you leading experts from around the country and around the world, in this case across the country in WA, to help you, the home seller, traverse the minefield that is the Australian real estate landscape. Whether that's selling a home for top dollar, building an investment portfolio by buying for bottom dollar, whatever it is, if it's to do with the Australian property market, we have got you covered. And today, I'm honoured to be bringing you someone, as I said, from the other side of the country in WA, whose unique insights, I'm talking about Michael Allen and his unique insights, having nearly 2 decades of experience, but having seen multiple swings of markets being more buoyant and a couple of property crashes, it'll be able to arm us over here in the eastern states to get done what we need to get done as far as our property portfolios are concerned. So Michael Allen, thank you for catching up, mate.
No worries, Glenn. Thanks for having me in.
And congrats, I did some research on what you've been doing there. You got into real estate about the same time I did back in the day. And so, mate, it's great to see you. So you and I, on other sides of the country, we've seen everything. But in my research, I noticed the book Preparing to Win. So congratulations, I see it up there on Amazon. So
yeah,
well done.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Tell us, a little bit about your background. For those of us in the eastern states, I know, in the southern suburbs of Perth, you're very well known with those decades of experience serving that community, the city of Melville and the surrounds. But for those of us in the eastern states, give us the bio, mate. What's brought you to real estate, and what's how's that life been?
How we got there. So real estate sort of always intrigued me. As a child, my grandfather was in real estate.
Wow.
And I remember sort of sitting in the car with him when I was really young, driving around, looking at properties.
Wow.
Mainly back then, a lot of it was fairly rural around Perth,
So was that 80s, 70s, 80s?
Oh, gee, mate, showing me age now. That'd be back in sort of the late 60s, early 70s, when I was really young, young fellow, like 5 years old, sort of stuff, just hanging out with Granddad,
So yeah, how was Perth developed in those days? You're saying it's mainly rural?
Yeah, so inner suburbs like Willetton and that today, major developed suburbs, Willetton, Rossmoyne, a lot of that was still bush back then.
Wow.
Like their house was on a commonly known street there, on Valent Ave, and it was a gravel road.
Wow.
And there's chicken farms and stuff
around. And this
around,
is minutes
so
from the
bush.
CBD.
Yeah, minutes, freeway runs there now and it's all developed. So
wow.
All of that and further out. And we lived in Canning Vale, which is the next suburb out again, which is also now majorly developed, big developments out there.
I saw Shadow Knoll there the other week.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Yeah, so that was just all bush as well. Family lived in like farmland when I was young.
Wow.
Just living with animals and around dairy farms and all bush as well. So.
Was Granddad using you as a sales tool? Here you are, a cute little 6, 7, 10-year-old.
Yeah, just hanging out.
He's got you as a sales weapon to help close some deals.
Hanging out, just looking cool and
Nice, mate. So in your adult life, how did getting into the industry as a professional, because I've seen your track record of success a mile long over the years, how did that early passion and exposure segue into you entering the industry?
So I suppose after a while of just working as a motor mechanic, it was my trade, my background.
Okay.
I always had that inkling, so I just decided to give it a shot. Went out to night school, did my license, as you did back then, and then sort of ventured out of mechanics and workshop management into real estate in the early 2000s, as we discussed. So, yeah, and haven't looked back since. It's been pretty good.
Is that where that work ethic and hands-on approach that you seem to exude? Because I saw some of your success stories of people online talking and singing your praises. Is that where that hands-on approach came from? That you came from a working class-ish background,
Yeah, I suppose it does, from that sort of side of things. Yeah, you're happy to get in there, get amongst it, and if there's a job to be done, do the job, get in there. Yeah, so certainly put in and commit.
Yeah, well, again, as someone who follows you on social media, I don't see I don't want to disrespect, I suppose, the industry, but I don't see an aviator wearing, BMW driving agent that's all about the flash and not about the substance. I see a working person that is in there doing the hard yards.
Yeah, and that helps me in the business because obviously you deal with a lot of working class people. So as I say, real estate agents can be perceived to be that sort of suit wearing, BMW driving type person, when really the majority of people, they are not out there in this industry. So, I have worked from all aspects of your first home buyers through to your people that own multi-million-dollar homes. But even those people are just generally everyday people. A lot of them are self-made, came from nothing as well, built their wealth. So when you get to sit down and talk with these people, you realise that they're all just people, and it's just sort of seeing where they come from, where they're at, you know, and fitting in with the people. So you've got a good understanding, you know, a good rapport with those people. So you build that rapport, and from there you just get on with doing the job with them and getting them where they need to be and help them achieve their goals.
Nice, mate.
Yeah.
So, having lived especially last, you know, maybe even since, I don't know, 2014, 15, but certainly in the last couple of years, you guys over there in WA have, by reputation, not exactly had the most buoyant market that we've enjoyed here for some time in the eastern states. Well, there's some evidence, and some of my guests here on the show are saying that we're entering a market like you've lived for the last 2 to 5 years. Tell us what advice you'd give to our eastern suburbs folks of how you survived and in many cases thrived. And when I say that, on behalf of your sellers, to get them safely transacted when the buyers weren't exactly lining up to buy those properties.
Yeah, so Glenn, it's about understanding the market and where it's heading. So yeah, you're right. Perth has probably spent near on 5 years in decline on the back of the mining and how, you know, it's fairly heavily driven by mining over there.
Right.
So that's been fairly soft, as the whole country's aware. That does seem to be plateauing out now, and we are seeing more people through home opens and a bit of stability taking place now, which is really good.
Right.
But through that period there, you know, you just have to be on top of it, watch what's happening, advise those owners, you know, what's happening in the marketplace, the feedback from those buyers, where it's at. So they're getting that good advice as to what's happening. They're not, you know, being led astray or misled with pricing and where people are at. So you can basically get ahead of where it's travelling to get them transacted and help them achieve their goal and get out comfortably.
Yeah, it's all about that, isn't it? Finding out what they need as opposed to just assuming, oh, there'll be $300,000 in capital growth happening and the money being the driver. It's certainly more about digging further, because I've seen some of the people that are singing your praises, and that seems to be the path they've taken. So on that subject, I suppose in the acquiring and the research and the acquiring of knowledge, I suppose, what would you recommend to our agents in finding the Michael Allen of whatever city our viewer is watching from?
Yeah. So when you're looking for your agent, obviously most people are going to get a few different agents in and get their opinions, and you need to look for an agent that has the understanding of the market changes, has been around a while, has that experience and knowledge. An agent's not just coming in and throwing a price at you. They need to bring the evidence. They need to bring that proof of where the market's sitting. They need to have the experience of understanding how to prepare the property for sale. You know, staging is a big one these days, as you would know about. Also understanding those different buyers. You know, you've got your first home buyers, you've got your mums and dads looking for their second home, you've got your investors, you've got your developers. They all look at property from different angles. So mums and dads, you know, generally have had that experience once. They're emotional, but they're also looking at the numbers a bit more analytical. Your first home buyers, often fairly emotional driven, just really
Deer in the headlights, I remember I was.
Yeah. Get that first home, you know, and get in there. Then of course you've got your investors. They're very analytical. To them it's just numbers.
Yeah.
So you need to understand where they're coming from. Sell them, you know, the advantages obviously of their property like you do everybody, but be aware they're just looking at numbers. So helping them understand where the positive is in the numbers on the property and why they should buy that property to get the returns they're looking for. Developers, very much the same. To them, it's very much numbers, looking for a profit margin. So they will basically just always be a low-end type buyer on a property unless they see some sort of hidden value possibly in the property. You know, they're prepared to pay a bit more, but generally also very number-driven. So once again, just selling them the advantages of, once it is developed, how they can get the extra money back out of it on the way out again.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more to it than just running some open homes and being a bit of a glorified tour guide and hoping someone buys it. It sounds like there's way more questioning and research in it than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no just sort of standing there and taking names and numbers.
Want to buy it?
Yeah, hoping it happens. It's just
I wonder if that
way.
was ever the case even in Granddad's day. I don't know. I suspect it wasn't even then.
No, I wouldn't think so.
You mentioned staging a moment ago. For those of us who are unfamiliar with, I suppose, this tack, and you mentioned it in your book, which is why, as I was reading it, I mentioned it. Tell us a little more about the importance of staging, what it is, and why it's important when you're in a market where the properties aren't just flying off the shelf.
Well, you've got to remember that these buyers are looking at lots of homes, not just yours. So you need yours to stand out from the crowd. You need to look really neat, really sharp. I always explain to my sellers. It needs to look like a show home, basically.
Right.
You need to sort of depersonalise that home.
Okay.
You don't want people coming in and just looking at all your personal life, your stuff, all your family photos all over the wall and on the benches.
So I've got to take all my memorabilia off the wall, do I?
You got to take a bit of it out, mate. You can leave a few pieces, you know, it creates that touch because it is a home.
Okay.
But you need to sort of take that real personal side away. So when they do walk in, they're looking at a really nice looking home,
Yeah.
really clean, neat, tidy, sharp, with just a touch of it being a home. You know? So they walk through, they see it, they see the home that they can live in,
Right.
not somebody else's life.
Yeah,
They want to see
okay.
their life in your home.
Yeah, I
so they
see
want to be
that.
moving in as they're looking at it, choosing rooms, seeing where their furniture is going to fit. Yeah.
I do see what you mean. I was with on a tour with an agent not so long back up in Queensland, and the owners were home, and that's a major extension of what you're saying. But I just wanted to get out of there because I felt invading. You know what I mean? I felt
Yeah.
like I was invading someone's home, you know? And so, yeah, by that extension, if their stuff was all around, but they weren't, there would still be a hint of that. You know, whereas show homes you'll go through all day because they do have that feel of, I'm going to live here as opposed to someone else does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the feel, that's what we're looking for. You know, we want them to see them in that
Imagining
home.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, mate.
Yeah.
So after we've presented a home well, say we're looking to engage you to sell for top dollar, no matter what the market is. Whatever that market is, we want the maximum possible. And we've presented the home well. I've loved looking at some of your marketing, both online, you know, the photography and all of that. You're very well known in our little mastermind world that we share with some mutual colleagues for your marketing. Tell me about the importance of it and how to identify someone who has those sorts of marketing skills that you've got.
Okay, yeah, so marketing, as you can appreciate, it's very important because that's what's going to bring the people into the home. So that first sort of look, presentation of that property, say online when they have a look at the photos, etc., they need to be really good quality photos to represent that home in its best light. So you don't want them flicking through and thinking it doesn't look good. So the marketing on that side, yeah, really good quality photography to make it present its best out there. Now the websites are one part of it, but as you're probably aware now, Glenn, social media is huge.
Wow,
You
yeah.
know, there used to be the day when it was a newspaper, and that was big back when I started in your early days, and it was all newspaper.
Yeah.
Quickly transitioned into internet, and then the sites became quite major. And we're seeing a big shift now where those websites are still necessary. They're not gone yet, but major change into the social media side. So we can now put properties onto Facebook, Instagram. We'll put them out there and give them a feed. And we can get hits in 24, 48 hours. We can get hundreds, if not thousands, of sort of views on those properties. You know, we can get a reach of hundreds of thousands with hundreds of views. Now, even on the major websites, you don't get those sort of views and hits in 24 hours to 48 hours. So it's amazing the reach that's, you know, that's getting there, which is understandable because everybody's on their device all day. They're just walking around looking at it, aren't they? In the phones, on the buses, at the bus stop. They're just staring at it, walking down the street staring at it.
Yeah.
So it's in their face, it's there. So we have systems we use. We don't just whack it on Facebook. You know, we've been trained by people very good in the industry just to how to get it out there, how to present it. Yeah, so it gets in people's faces and it's working really well. So we're getting all our vendors to look at that now and work with that.
Oh, for sure. And because I look back at the early 2000s, it's like a full page in a major suburban newspaper, in my area it was the Courier Mail, would cost a small fortune, but we would market directly to the consumers. And it's like we've gone back to that.
Yes.
Once again, you know, we're sort of we have the ability, if we need to circumvent or even supplement those websites with direct to consumer advertising. That seems to be a forgotten art by agents in the last 10 years that you and I would remember from our early days.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Glenn, because it's like they've almost got the newspaper back in their hand in electronic
But what I
form.
like is, well, tell me about this, because I've certainly found this to be true. You let me know if it is in WA. At a fraction of the cost that old Courier Mail, or in your case, the West, would have been when we were directly marketing with the newspaper.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Newspapers, as you know, they were very expensive. They were the big cost. Then it transitioned to the websites. You know, you could spend hundreds, thousands on newspapers. Then it transitioned to the website. Started off around $25. I remember when it was new, $25 to put a property on.
Yeah.
Those same base ads now, it costs you almost $1,000 or $1,000 plus, depending on the style of advertising for the website. We're now social media. For hundreds of dollars, you can get much better exposure. So it's gone back to them being the new player on the block, the cheapest form for the maximum impact and reach out there in society.
So it's definitely important for us as consumers to be finding agents like Michael that are able to be the first movers on these more affordable advertising platforms and not just paying these thousands of dollars that potentially we don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be playing catch up. You know, we're at the forefront of it now, and that's where you need to be. You need to be at the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And, mate, it's great that you're staying ahead of these cycles for your entire career. Excellent job, mate. So I suppose that leads to then, we've staged the home, we've done a good job there, we've marketed it well on both social media, websites, and we've gotten all those buyers interested. How does then negotiating those buyers to get, like I see some of the results you get, some of those prices do not seem like it should be the case when I've heard the horror stories from Perth. How is that? Is that all in the negotiating, or is that a combination of all three? Tell me about the value of the 3 steps, but primarily that negotiating thing. How important is that?
Yeah, sure. So it's obviously a major part. That's what we're employed to do, negotiate and get the best dollar out of those buyers. So from the moment I meet the buyers as they're walking into the home open, you're greeting them as they come through the door, you're just getting a feel for the buyer, having a chat, finding out what they're looking for, basically qualifying those buyers from the moment you meet them. So as they're walking around and you're having conversation, answering questions about the house, I'll generally ask them questions like, yeah, so what do you guys do, you know, and they'll give an idea what they do, what their employment is, you know, where do they live, are they local, are they somewhere else, why are they moving? So you start to build a picture of the buyer, get an understanding of them and where they're at and why. You're also getting a feeling of how they really feel about the house. You can ask questions, you know, and you'll listen to what they're saying in the distance or just away from you as they're chit-chatting, you know, because obviously everybody wants to keep the cards close. So they all sort of say, oh, it's okay, you know, but you can hear them in the background going, I absolutely love this house, you know, so you already know where they're at. So
and sometimes, because I've seen some of the stuff you've read and written in articles and your book and other things, even if they're not whispering that to each other, you're spotting it in their facial expressions and things, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right, and their body language and how they are, and they're sort of bouncing around. They look excited, that look in their faces they're getting around, you know, and how they're acting. So you get a good feel for that, and then, you know, the follow-up and everything is very important. So we've got the new systems in place, the latest in place. So when people come for our home opens now, everything is taken down basically rather than we're putting it into the phone. So we take their name, their number, their mobile number, their email address. When they walk out of that home, they get an email and they get an SMS thanking them for attending the home, giving them a link back to the property, asking them if they've got any more questions, please make contact. So they get that on the day.
Yeah, so in a very non-offensive way, you're making it easy for the buyer to buy if they're the right person, but you're not being offensive. Yeah, that's great.
No, they're just getting the link and thanking them for being there.
Nice.
And then of course we give them the hard call, the follow-up, as in ask the questions, where are they at, to get confirmation, because those forms of contact are great. It's keeping them in touch with the property, but we need to know. I need to know, you know, what do they really think? How do they feel? And they've left, gone, had a chat, looked at some other properties. So we'll follow them up and get the feel where they're at. Invite them back in. Say the next day we open on a Saturday. If they're warm, we'll invite them to come back on the Sunday. Our owner's always prepped that we may want to come back the next day, so don't get the house too messy when you get home, you know, keep it fairly tidy, we may want to be back. So yeah, and we'll get those buyers back in the next day where possible to keep them warm and focused on that property.
Yeah.
And then of course inviting them to buy the property, you know, so you're saying, would you like to make an offer on this property? So they're in that position, yes, no, or I'm still thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, what is it you need to think about? They got questions, queries, answer those questions, put the positives out there and, you know, convince those people they need to be on paper to get that property. So yeah, it's quite a process, but it's got to be done to get the people there and get them across the line.
I love that it seems like a nice mix of not being afraid to ask the question so that you're never going to die wondering, so to speak. You're making it easy for the buyer to buy, and you're doing it in a way that's strong enough to get the job done, but not too strong to be offensive to them. So it seems like you got the right balance, mate, and no question as to why you got the trail of results, even in less than ideal circumstances. But it's good to see that from the looks of it, and from yourself and other friends of mine in WA, it seems that we are maybe seeing that shift, so that you guys will have a bit of an easier time moving forward, and maybe some of yourselves be able to enjoy less difficult and trying circumstances, perhaps.
Yeah, I think we're definitely at the bottom now. It's certainly showing those signs, Glenn. It's flattened out. better numbers through the home opens.
Yeah, okay.
A better feel for the buyers, and we're seeing stuff starting to move. So it's
Too
good.
late for me to buy in if we're at the bottom?
No, you can get in now, mate. I've got a couple you can have if you like.
It's
So,
still a
yeah,
deal?
I've got a
Still
few
a
there
deal
for
to be
you. I've
had?
got a
Yeah,
few.
but I don't want to buy
Yeah.
through you. You're too bloody good a negotiator. I want to buy through your less than competition.
That's okay, mate. You'll get it back into growth in the coming years.
See, I like it, mate. Very good. Born salesman, folks. Well done.
Yeah.
Mate, congratulations on a lifetime of successes, my man. And thank you for the copies of the book for our guys, mate. Much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome, Glenn.
All right,
You're welcome.
guys. For Michael Allen, I'm Glenn Twiddle, and another episode of Real Estate Experts. Until next time, bye for now.